If you were to ask me to suggest a name, I would suggest a name. But I cannot insist on that, because the concept that was given by the judiciary in its pronouncements was that you must involve the opposition in the selection of the name. And in one case, the matter went on and it was postponed. I said, I cannot agree when you are giving me one name. Then ultimately they gave me 3 names, and then I said, I don't know the names that you have suggested, but this particular name also you have included again, about whom I know that he is not suitable, so I will not agree to that. Of the remaining 2, you agree and you select anyone. And they did it. Unfortunately, this time, when my colleague Sushma ji was on this collegium, where a decision was to be taken about the CVC, she pointed out that this particular name, the CBI is inquiring into a matter against him. CBI कर रहा है ना?
Corruption Department ने
charge sheet किया है.
He has been charge sheeted.
He has been charge sheeted, and therefore he should not be there. And so far as I am concerned, you have given me 2 other names on the panel. I have no objection to any one of those being chosen. You decide. They said no. We will decide about this, and he was decided. And I'm not going into his comments on what 2G, what should be done in 2G, etc., etc. Now, of course, what has happened is that these days, all these corruption cases have been such that the Supreme Court has taken notice of them. The CAG has taken notice of them. Of course, the opposition has taken note of them, and as I just pointed out, that in case of the CVC, even the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha took cognizance of it and said no. And yet they did what they did. They decided to do what they did. When the Supreme Court made a comment on the CVC, he has said that he would recuse himself from this particular 2G scandal, but he is not going to resign, though there were reports that he is likely to resign. All these happenings are of a nature which only vindicate our stand that this government is not at all serious about curbing corruption. A colleague of mine who had been to the UN General Assembly this time, he reported to the parliamentary party meeting, Tuesday meeting, that their UN has adopted a convention on corruption in 2004, and there were 140 signatories to that. They said that all these 140 signatories must ratify this convention as early as possible. 6 years have passed since then. This is 2010. And out of the 140 signatories, only 14 have not ratified it. And I am sorry to note that India is one of them, not ratified. And for ratification, in some countries, they need the approval of parliament. Here in India, we don't have any such law, and ratification can be done by the government itself. No one else is needed. They don't have to bring it to parliament or to go to the assemblies or to anyone. And yet it has not been ratified. Why? And my colleague Shanta Kumar, who went there, he not only gave me facts about this particular convention, but he also gave me a copy of the speech delivered by the Swiss representative there, Switzerland, which is one of the countries about whom we often talk when we talk about illicit assets abroad. Indian wealth that has been transferred abroad. We always talk about Switzerland, though the smaller tax havens are not so much known, Ivory Coast and Liechtenstein and all that. But Switzerland is anyway, and I was really surprised to read his speech, because he said that one of the major objectives of this convention against corruption is to see that illicit funds transferred abroad by any country, they are sent back to the countries from which they have been siphoned off. And he said, therefore, Switzerland has passed a special law in 2010 as to how funds that have been deposited in Switzerland, if they are illicit, if they are illegal, if they are from black money, unlawful activity, how they can be transferred back to the country concerned. And he said, but I can tell you, Switzerland is the country which has transferred the maximum number of assets, but we find that the countries from which they are transferred, they often lack the political will to do so. Therefore, it's what it is. From our side, we are fully willing to transfer everything. If you wish, I could read out portions of his speech, but I won't do that. I would only say that it was during the election campaign that we from the NDA raised this issue of assets abroad. And we said that a fight against corruption and the amounts that we need, the resources that this country's poor need, will be really met if we are able to transfer all that wealth from abroad back to India. In the beginning, our raising this issue was ridiculed by some of our opponents. But subsequently, I felt happy when the Prime Minister himself said that this is an important issue, and I can assure the country, he did it during the campaign itself. Within the first 100 days, one of the tasks that my new government would undertake would be recovery of all these assets. More than 500 days has passed since then, and perhaps many years would pass, but nothing has happened in that regard, and particularly because this is part of the UN Convention Against Corruption. Therefore, I have referred to it in the context of today's. I would again demand that the Prime Minister immediately proceed to fulfill the assurance he had given to the electorate during the election campaign, and see to it that particularly funds in Switzerland, whose representative says that his country has specially passed a law in that regard, they should be immediately approached, and effort should be made not only to bring back all the wealth, but I would say to inform the country as to who had transferred all that wealth abroad. Because very often we feel that if there is an interest in protecting those people, there would be reluctance to bring back the wealth also, and reluctance even to share with the country. Now that this issue has come to this pass, therefore I thought it would be proper for me to read this also. So far as CVC is concerned, if it had been the question of the CAG, Comptroller or Auditor General, then because it's a constitutional post, and we also could have made a move in that regard. But in this case, it is for the authority himself, CVC, or for the government to advise him. But it would be proper, I think, that if in the context of the Supreme Court pronouncements, the government takes cognizance of it. Friends, I have said briefly what has been spelled out at some little length in this handout, and I think that so far as the stalemate is concerned, once again I am of the view that this stalemate should end, but because the entire opposition has unanimously said that a proper investigation into these scandals can be done only if there is a joint parliamentary committee. In this context, I would also like to say that some alternatives were suggested by the government. As for example, the PSC doing it, and the PSC being given some investigative agency to assist it. I think that some developments have taken place, apart from the fact that even earlier, when the 4 JPCs were constituted, the PSC was there, but no one talked about a scandal being probed by a PSC. Not that it cannot probe, but ordinarily, tradition is, convention is, that the PSC looks at the CAG's report, para by para, and on that basis proceeds to examine it. It is not an investigating agency as such, and therefore it is that government suggested that the CBI may be attached to it. Its powers may be enhanced. Do what you want. But I would say that the PSC has its role which it would perform. If it wants to go into the question of spectrum also, let it do so. I am not saying that. But I am sure that the PSC will not be able to examine the numerous tapes that have surfaced. Those tapes show that we have business houses having lobbyists who try to determine who should be a minister in this government, who should be holding a particular portfolio. Now, these are matters which have made this particular 2G scam particularly a multi-dimensional scam. It undermines democracy itself. When you have business houses trying to decide the composition of governments, the portfolio that ministers must hold, that is not the function of the Public Accounts Committee. Public Accounts Committee, within its limits, let it do what it wants. And if there is some overlapping, that also doesn't matter. But basically, the scam that has surfaced now, the scams that have surfaced now are of a nature which must be probed thoroughly, and all those who are guilty brought to book. We think nothing short of a joint parliamentary committee can do justice to this task. Thank you, friends.
Mr. Advani, sir, if CVC is recusing himself from the telecom scam.
CVC has so many jobs to do. And recusing, my lawyer friends tell me, I am not a lawyer, but my friends tell me it is only when there are 10 judges, one of whom feels that he has an interest in a particular matter. Therefore, he says, I recuse myself, because there are other judges who can come there. I do not see how a CVC can recuse himself.